So first, I would like to start with your involvement with YMCA and how you got involved specifically with the Immigration Settlement Services.
Well, I start off with initially being involved with the Chamber of Commerce in the development of the very first International Village Festival. That's how far back it goes. Before, the YMCA did not take over Immigrant Settlement Services or took the responsibility for it until 2003, January 2003. In 1973, there was a group of individuals sitting around a boardroom table in the Chamber of Commerce, talking about what could they do that would celebrate the Bell Centennial. And there was Jack Mann, who was the general manager of the Chamber at the time, came up with the idea and pitched it as to what if we had an International Village Festival. Anyway, to make a long story short, we just completed 40 years last year. That was the 40th celebration of the International Village Festival, and I have been part of that all those 40 years. The International Village group, after a few years, identified the need to have an immigrant settlement service here in Brantford to help people that were newcomers to the city. And they formed a group called a nonprofit called Ethnoculture Fest, and applied for funding to the federal and the provincial citizenship and immigration, and received funds. And when they did that, they had to change the name to Immigrant and Settlement Counseling Service. Then, in it was late 90s, the government both governments changed the way they were dealing with immigrants, and they withdrew the funding for that service. And so the community went without immigrant settlement services for a few years when the federal department came to the YMCA and asked would they be interested in taking on immigrant settlement services because there was a need in this community. And I was on the board of directors there at the time, and the discussion was, well, yes, maybe we will, because that would bring new people. One of the things that newcomers do is be interested in the why. The why is something that is known the world wide. It's like Coca-Cola, as far as a logo is concerned. So they decided to do it. When I went to school, I happened to live in a neighborhood, North Ward here in the city, where there was a good number of my friends whose parents came here after the Second World War. And I was in elementary school, from Italy, Hungary, Poland, Ukraine. And as a result, I was interested in their languages and what they went through. And that continued on through high school. I've always had an interest in all these other... geography was one of my favorite subjects. So in having a love of geography, I was always interested in all these things and the people that lived there. So I found as a young person, well, they're no different than me. They just come from a different part of the world. And so I've just had this natural interest in different cultures and where they came from. So I know what my mother went through with immigrant parents as a child. I saw what my friends went through and some of the bullying that went on.
One of the reasons why I invited you here for an interview is because I interviewed some newcomers and some people that had immigrated here, and they said if it wasn't for Lucy Marco, they would have had a much more difficult time.
So, isn't that nice to hear?
So what does it feel like to provide services for someone and then later on see them become a successful community member? What does that feel like for you?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. First of all, to know me, my passion is this community and the people in it. And so it doesn't matter whether you're an immigrant or not. I've spent years as a counselor in employment and or many, many things. And I like to see people achieve their potential and get going on something they never thought they could do. So if it's an immigrant that has come to Canada and has to learn the currency, the shopping, the housing, the transportation, you name it, all those things that I wouldn't have a clue what to do if I went to another country, to see them get and make the transition in their knowledge base from where they came to where they're going and the potential of where they could go is very exciting. And when I see them do it, when I see them become a Canadian citizen, and now they can vote and they have depending on where they came from, they maybe not been able to do that. So I just find that that's my reward. My reward as a trainer and an educator is to see people, oh, and go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be able to comment on Brantford as a city for newcomers? Do you think we are inviting and accommodating and supportive, or do you think our city could do more for those who immigrate here?
It's not the city itself, the administration of the city is fine. It's the people that live in the city. There is bias, doesn't matter where you go, bias will be there until all those young people that are all intermingled have got into their middle years. Unfortunately, bias is taught by the adults to children. So, can I say that Brantford is welcoming? I can say administration is welcoming, and they have a newcomer portal, and they've done all kinds of things to make it welcoming. But it depends on the residents again. You will see now more newcomers involved in different things in the city where they have children because they're parents supporting their children. But it's difficult for them to get involved in something else where the children aren't involved unless there's somebody that knows them and takes them along. That's not just symbolic to Brantford. That's just the world as it is in Canada. Canada is a melting pot. It does have all these cultures, and so that's a challenge. But it's a challenge. It's working. People are rising to it. It just takes time.